In a far-off land where endless desert sands meet the horizon and the sun burns high in the sky, there stood a city teeming with life. Narrow streets were filled with people, their voices mixing with the clamor of marketplaces, the rattle of carts, and the lively banter of traders. In this bustling city lived Aladdin, a poor but clever young man, alongside his mother. Aladdin was like any other boy, restless, adventurous, and without much concern for work. Day after day he wandered the streets, his mind far from the dusty alleys he knew so well. But change was coming, and fate had something far greater in store. One day, a stranger appeared, an enigmatic man with sharp eyes and a commanding presence. He claimed to be Aladdin's long-lost uncle, a brother of Aladdin's late father. Aladdin was puzzled. He had never heard of such a relative. Yet, the man's voice was so smooth, so convincing, that Aladdin's suspicion slowly faded. Soon enough, he found himself following the stranger to the city's outskirts. The bustling streets gave way to barren lands. The sun's heat beat down, and the air smelled of dry earth. They traveled far, the city's noise fading behind them, until they reached a remote and desolate place. There, among the dunes, the stranger finally stopped. The stranger pointed to a hidden spot, tangled with bushes and roots. Beneath them lay the mouth of a cave. "Here," he said, his voice now urgent and laced with greed, "lies a lamp that holds great power, but only you can retrieve it." Aladdin's heart raced at the thought of treasure. Yet he hesitated, his eyes locked on the shadowy entrance. Sensing his unease, the stranger placed a hand on Aladdin's shoulder. "Don't be afraid," he said with a sly smile. "Inside this cave lies your destiny. I would go myself, but only you can unlock what's within. Go in, retrieve the lamp, and all the riches are yours." Aladdin couldn't resist the allure of wealth. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. Entering the dark cave, his curiosity piqued. The air was cool and damp, the ground uneven beneath his feet. Shadows flickered on the walls as Aladdin ventured deeper, his eyes slowly adjusting to the dim light. As he ventured deeper, a faint glow began to fill the cave. At first, it flickered like fireflies, but soon it grew brighter, revealing a breathtaking sight. Piles of gold, glittering gemstones, and treasures from forgotten kingdoms. But at the center of this treasure was a simple old lamp, the real prize the stranger sought. "This must be the treasure," Aladdin muttered to himself, feeling very interested. He carefully picked up the lamp, turning it over in his hands. It felt heavier than it looked, as though it held some hidden secret. With the lamp in his grasp, Aladdin turned back toward the entrance, eager to show the stranger what he had found. But the moment he approached the cave's mouth, the man's true intentions were revealed. No longer was he the kindly uncle, his face twisted with impatience and greed. "Hand me the lamp," the sorcerer demanded, his smooth voice now a harsh snarl. Aladdin, suddenly sensing the danger, refused. He could feel the darkness in the sorcerer's eyes, a hunger that went beyond the riches of the cave. Realizing he could not manipulate Aladdin any further, the sorcerer's patience snapped. In a fit of rage, he used his magic to seal the cave's entrance with a massive stone. The ground trembled as the cave entrance collapsed, trapping Aladdin inside. The darkness closed in around him, thick and suffocating. Aladdin's heart pounded in his chest as he frantically searched for a way out, but there was none. Despair washed over him. He was trapped, alone in the cold, silent cave, with nothing but the lamp in his hands. In a moment of desperation, Aladdin rubbed the lamp, hoping perhaps for a spark of hope or a sign of what to do next. And then, to his astonishment, the lamp began to glow. Smoke poured from its spout and swirled in the air. The smoke twisted and curled, filling the cave with a luminous light until, before Aladdin's eyes, it formed the shape of a colossal figure, a genie, shimmering and towering above him. Its eyes glowed with an ancient power, and its voice, deep and rumbling like thunder, echoed through the cave. "I am the slave of the lamp," the genie proclaimed. "What do you wish of me, master?" Aladdin, stunned by the sight before him, took a moment to gather his thoughts. He had been thrown into a world of magic and danger beyond his understanding, but there was no time to fear. With a steady breath, he made his wish. "Free me from this cave." The genie bowed its head, and with a single motion, the stone at the cave's entrance rolled away. Aladdin stepped out into the sunlight, his heart still racing, his hands trembling as he clutched the lamp. Little did he know, this lamp, with its powerful genie, would be the key to changing his life forever. With the genie's power at his fingertips, Aladdin's fortunes transformed overnight. Where once there was nothing but poverty, now there stood a palace unlike any the world had ever seen. Its walls gleamed with gold that caught the sun and shone like a second dawn rising over the city. The towers stretched high into the sky, their peaks studded with jewels that twinkled like stars. Rich decorations draped the halls, and gardens filled with rare flowers from distant lands perfumed the air with their exotic scents. The palace was a marvel, a place of unparalleled wealth and mystery. The people of the city marveled at the sudden rise of the boy they had once seen wandering the streets. Whispers filled the markets, stories of how Aladdin had come to possess such riches. Some said it was by sheer luck. Others claimed he had made a pact with spirits. But no one could deny the splendor of his new life. Even the Sultan, ruler of the land, could not ignore what was unfolding in his kingdom. He gazed upon Aladdin's magnificent palace from afar, his eyes wide with admiration and curiosity. Intrigued by the young man's newfound fortune, he summoned Aladdin to his court. And when Aladdin arrived, dressed in fine silks and bearing gifts of gold, the Sultan was further impressed. Not just by his wealth, but by his grace and confidence. The Sultan, seeing in Aladdin both power and potential, offered him the highest honor in the land, the hand of his beautiful daughter in marriage. The princess was known for her beauty, kindness, and intelligence, and many suitors had sought her favor, but none had captured the Sultan's approval quite like Aladdin. The wedding was a grand occasion, celebrated throughout the city. Aladdin and the princess were married in a grand ceremony attended by many. But despite the grandeur of his new life, Aladdin remained humble. He treated his people with kindness and ruled with wisdom, drawing on the lessons of his past. His heart remained as pure as when he was a poor boy, and with the genie still at his command, he promised to protect and serve his kingdom with integrity. And so, from the dusty streets to a golden palace, Aladdin's journey had brought him to heights he had never imagined. But little did he know, the magic of the lamp still held many trials ahead, for with great power comes great danger lurking in the shadows. The adventure, as Aladdin would soon discover, was far from over. The sorcerer, bitter and enraged by his failed scheme, was not easily defeated. He had retreated far away, but vengeance burned in his heart. After months of plotting, he returned in disguise, this time as a merchant selling fine gleaming lamps in the bustling streets of the city. His plan was cunning, his heart full of malice. One day, while Aladdin was away hunting, the sorcerer approached the palace, his sharp eyes scanning for any opportunity. Aladdin's wife, curious about the merchant's goods, came to browse. The sorcerer, knowing the magical lamp's immense power, cleverly offered a trade. His shiny new lamps in exchange for the old dusty one that Aladdin had left behind in the palace. Unaware of the lamp's true value, Aladdin's wife agreed to the trade, thinking she was doing a simple act of kindness for her husband. With a smile as cold as steel, the sorcerer handed her the new lamp and departed quickly, clutching the magic lamp in his hand, his heart pounding with anticipation. As soon as he was out of sight, the sorcerer wasted no time. With a swift rub of the lamp, the genie appeared once more, bound to serve the holder of the lamp. The sorcerer immediately commanded the genie to carry away Aladdin's magnificent palace and all its treasures to a faraway land where no one could find it. In an instant, the ground shook. The grand palace, with its gleaming towers, lush gardens, and priceless treasures, vanished into thin air. It was as if the earth itself had swallowed it whole, leaving nothing behind but a barren patch of sand. Aladdin, returning home from his hunt, was met with devastation. His palace, his riches, and his beloved wife, all gone. The city was in shock. Aladdin stood there, stunned, feeling the weight of his world crumble around him. Once again, he was left with nothing. But Aladdin, though shaken, refused to give up. He had faced dark times before and risen above them, and he would do so again. With courage and wit, he tracked down the sorcerer to a distant land, far beyond the city walls. The air was thick with tension as Aladdin stood before the sorcerer, his enemy, and the man who had sought to ruin him. The sorcerer believed he had the upper hand. With the lamp in his grasp, he summoned the genie, intent on ending Aladdin's life. But Aladdin was ready. He had learned much since their first encounter. As the genie rose, his enormous form filling the sky, Aladdin calmly revealed a second object. The ring his so-called uncle had given him on the day they first entered the cave. Unbeknownst to the sorcerer, this ring also held great power, summoning a lesser, but loyal spirit. With the ring's genie, Aladdin escaped the sorcerer's trap and eventually outwitted him, reclaiming the lamp. The sorcerer, his rage boiling over, hurled magic at Aladdin, but the genie, now once again under Aladdin's control, protected him with a mighty shield of light. In a final desperate act, the sorcerer used all his power. The ground trembled, the sky crackled with energy, but it was no use. With a swift command, Aladdin ordered the genie to banish the sorcerer far away, to a barren, lifeless desert where no magic could reach him again. And just like that, it was over. The genie, once again bound to the lamp, bowed before Aladdin. With gratitude and grace, Aladdin wished for everything to be restored: the palace, his riches, and most importantly, the happiness of his beloved wife. The genie, with a wave of its hand, made it so. Peace returned to Aladdin's life, and from that day on, he kept the lamp safe, no longer using it for grand displays of power, but only for the well-being of his people. He had learned that true strength lies not in riches or magic, but in the wisdom to use it wisely. The wind swept through the city, carrying with it stories of Aladdin's great adventures, of how he rose from poverty to become a prince, how he outwitted the evil sorcerer, and how through it all, he kept his heart kind and his mind sharp. Years passed, and Aladdin and his wife lived happily in their grand palace. And so, the tale of Aladdin and the wonderful lamp comes to an end. But this is just one story among the many that we tell here. Subscribe for more amazing tales from around the world.